For the first half of this game, it was like, okay, this must have been how neutrals felt watching last night as well, being like two good teams going at it. There's a to and fro. The interstate team who went on the road got a lead at quarter time. They had to withstand the pressure, the fight back from the second quarter of the home team. This is going exactly the same. And then it didn't. And as a Hawthorn fan, looking at what Brisbane did in that second half is what we want our club to become and this group to become. But this isn't about the Hawks, this is about Brisbane, and of course, invariably, about the Pies as well. Pretty good game of footy to watch this one, really enjoyed it. A few things that I want to go over, not just the implications of both the teams and moving forward, but also the game itself and what we can learn, I think, about both these teams moving forward as we get closer and closer to finals is what we're all about. But this is Daz Talks Footy. Like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Footy family, and let's get into what I thought about the game. And the first takeaway that I've got here is that if Hugh McCluggage is not a starting midfielder in the All-Australian team, it's cooked. But I know he's been included in the squad as the perennial winger for a number of seasons, and I just don't think that can be the case anymore. He was outstanding, not only the way that he started the game, but the way that he bookended the game as well. I think he had in the first quarter a dozen disposals or something like that, or he had 9 in the first quarter, and then ended the game with 9 as well. So the bookends of his contest were just outstanding. It was Lachie Neale who had the dozen in the last quarter. Will Ashcroft's last quarter was ridiculously good as well, and the depth of this midfield is just extraordinary. The fact that you can take a Levi, who was one of the better performing midfielders, of course, in his draft year last year, and being able to stick him on a wing and just go, that's your spot now because you're not good enough to break into this midfield is just, it's off the chain in terms of how good it is. But Lachie Neale stood up when it counted as well. The fact that there's an argument to be made that he's either second or third on your list of who to stop in this side just suits him perfectly as he gets over that hump of course, not being 30 anymore, but on the other side of 30. And we treat that like a bad thing in modern footy, but veterans are having an impact on this game. Borderline unlike anything we've seen, at least for like a decade or so, because experience is never a bad thing. I mean, look, Collingwood tonight, you could say good or bad, but they had 19 players that had over 100 games of experience tonight, only equal to Hawthorn's 2015 grand final team, which is extraordinary. And of course, we know what happened in that 2015 grand final. Thank you to the Hawks, 3-peat, yay. But I said it was enough about the Hawks, didn't I? But I think the player who kind of went under the radar, especially in terms of just how good they were, was Josh Dunkley, whose second quarter was genuinely unbelievable and was a catalyst in getting Brisbane not back into the game, because the Pies, although they had momentum for the great majority of that quarter, Brisbane never looked out of it by any stretch. A little bit like the Pies, a little bit like the two teams last night, is you were kind of about at the halfway mark, 3-quarter mark of the quarter. We're just hoping the siren went. That's what it felt like from the outsider watching. It was kind of like once they get to the siren, they're going to regroup. And Dunkley was the catalyst of that, of he stood up when a couple of his teammates, especially ones that I've already spoken about, just didn't in a way. Now, I think one of my strengths as a channel, I think, is being able to be like, you know, the thing that everyone already knows. I think there's something a little bit underrated that we can talk about instead and give a little bit of love to. Think of like Dom Sheed's goal in the grand final is iconic. McGovern's mark is iconic. Something that I think is not talked about but deserves a level of love is Nathan Vardy's kick that helped set that up to Liam Ryan, right? The mark, even then, was iconic. Something has to miss out when you've got those 3 iconic moments in a row. Vardy's kick was outstanding. And Henry Smith deserves the credit for it. The way he was able to compete in the air, the way he was pretty clean on the ground for the majority of the evening, kicked his goals as well, finished the night with 3, which was fantastic. But sometimes you've just got to lay on the love for Dom Sheed. Sometimes you have to revel in what Jeremy McGovern did, and I think we need to do that with Logan Morris. I went and had a look in my 22 mock draft, my very last one in November, and I was like, I wonder if I also sort of made Logan slip past where he was needed. It turns out I actually got it spot on. I had Logan as pick 31 in that draft as well. It just so happened with the machinations of that draft, he was drafted to Carlton. And in that video, I said, in a world, if Carlton are ever to move on from Charlie or Harry, or if the Blues ever wanted a third tall option that could work closer to goal, if you're going to bring Harry up the ground and Charlie as a pure centre half forward, he could be a guy to look at in the short, medium, and long term. And boy, did that age well. But half a dozen, the most by Brisbane's player at the MCG since Jonathan Brown. I love the man, to be honest. He absolutely made Darcy Moore look foolish, as did Eric Hipwood with his off-the-ball stuff in the air. Or actually stopping Darcy Moore getting in the air was more of the point there. But in terms of Brisbane, in terms of what you want to achieve against a contender when you're on the road and you're up against everything that you need to, you don't necessarily need to kick 130 goals and win by 12 in order for you to sort of sit back, whether you're a neutral or a Brisbane fan, and go, that's the perfect result. Because they achieved that tonight. They really did. They took the piss in a lot of areas. 3 out of the 4 quarters, they were so far the better side that it wasn't funny. Yes, there are things along the way, both in and out of your control, that are worth discussing. Few umpiring decisions were a little bit iffy. Was that the reason that Collingwood lost the game, I should say? No, and I don't think it's worth having that breakdown of, was this there, was this not there, how badly was A, B, and C screwed. I just don't think that's worth that level of conversation. I really don't. What is worth having the level of conversation, though, is outside of their big 4 mids all having 30 plus. So Neil 36, McCluggage 34, Dunkley 31, and Ashcroft 30. The next highest on the ground was Jasper Fletcher with 22, tied with Levi Ashcroft. Both players who wanted to play on the outside. Zach Bailey is the other winger, 21 and 2. Holy shit. Darcy Wilmot, 19, as an outside player on the halfback flank. Jared Berry had 20 on the outside as well. Whilst, yes, their midfield got it done in close and kept Nick Dacos to like 2 touches in that last quarter, they had to force Josh in there. Are Collingwood a midfielder short? Maybe. Is the Ned Long experiment starting to get exposed? A little bit, it looks like. But whilst their guys got going, when they had to bring the ball to the outside of the contest, they were away and took the piss. And sort of, as much as I want to shout out everyone from Brisbane, Cam Rayner, 2 goals, 15 disposals, 9 tackles. The defensive work, what he's being able to do without the footy, has been something that we just haven't seen from Cam before, who has performed in finals, that prelim final against Geelong, especially in the second half. He was fantastic. So all the credit in the world there. But when he doesn't have the footy, it's like it's the most engaged he's ever been. If I didn't know any better, it would be like, I would speculate, is his defensive pressure acts or are his tackles a clause in his contract for this year? Like, that's the leap that it's taken. Not that I'm suggesting he's lazy or anything, or was before this year, but there is something that has awoken in this man that is just making him so bloody difficult to mark, to tackle, to stop, I suppose. And if that's what you're going to do with 15 disposals, that's pretty damn good in terms of what you can accomplish. So the perfect night, you would argue, for Brisbane, and 100% deserve the credit for that. We can move from there to the Pies in a really meaningful way. And the thing about the Pies that I want to talk about is, I think you've got the right to still go, Collingwood are a good team. They got beaten by a better one on the night. Are they going to be better overall? Who knows? This is still the reigning premier, by the way. But the concerning thing for me about the Pies now, there's 2 things, and neither of which I'm going to overreact to, but I think the 2 things that are worth talking about here is that their system defense falls down in a one-on-one context. Like, Darcy Moore lost so many one-on-one contests tonight. The only kind of defender I can probably say won more contests than the eye test looked than they lost. Now, of course, defenders are going to halve contests all the time, so it's not a win-loss ratio. You've got win-loss, and then, the entire grey area of trying to halve the contest and not letting either one win or lose was Isaac Quaynor, which is fine, but Darcy Moore just misses Billy Frampton, misses Nathan Murphy, just misses Jeremy Howe more than nearly anyone else. Jeremy Howe being your most important defender is both a fact and a little bit terrifying, considering, again, you're looking at a veteran who is your most important guy. Like, Pendlebury is not your most important midfielder. Side bottom is not necessarily your most important ball user. You've got Houston down back, and I need to talk about him for a second down in a minute. But you've got Lipinski for your centre forward change. Now, we had a couple of uncharacteristic errors tonight, the Pinsk, but the problem that they've got, in a sense, I think the Pies, outside of what they're able to do defensively, is scoring. They're one of the better scoring teams in the league. They're top 4 in the comp going into this round in scoring. What the hell are you talking about? Since round 9, they've scored over 80 points against a fellow top 9 team once. Unfortunately, it was against the Hawks, and they're playing them next week, but still. Now, before that, they did it in back-to-back weeks against Geelong and Freo, but round 8, round 9, around that mark, you're looking at now 3 months of footy since then. Now, have they played a lot of top 9 teams? No, I believe it's 3 or 4 since then, but that's still a concerning number to be like 1 out of 4, 25% or 33% if it's 3, that they're able to put a score on the board. And if, I think long gone are the days where you're going to be able to win 1, 2, or maybe you could win it once, twice as a stretch. I don't think you're going to win 3 finals and not score 80 points this year. Unless you're playing in torrential downpour somehow, some way, I just don't think that's going to be the go. Now, is this going to be a full-on Collingwood bash fest? No, it's not. Again, for a quarter and a half, they weren't terrible, but Josh and Nick did enough with their 29 disposals each. I know Nick's going to cop a little bit of criticism for his last quarter, but the fact that the next 2 guys on your disposal output are Pendlebury and Sidebottom, and the fact that it's only 43 between them, does deserve a deeper conversation. This isn't probably the time for it, but that's what happens. The two ball users that I've kind of got to go, why aren't they giving them the ball more? The first one's Jack Crisp, who had 15 disposals, and that's all. Patrolling that wing, especially when Dacos had to go into the midfield, even though he's been playing a lot more half-back, I understand. But that's not really working out. Hoskin Elliott on a wing is just not working out that much. There are things that they're going to need to tweak and improve moving forward. But how in the ever-loving God is Dan Houston having 11 disposals? How are you not just feeding this guy? Like, for all of the criticisms, questions, and even conspiracies, if you want to go down that path, of Collingwood stat padding for Nick last year, why in the ever-loving Christ are they not doing it to Dan now? It's not like he's getting tagged. The guy that I think that they need to do this role with is kind of like what GWS do with Finn Callaghan, who, even though he got tagged against the Swans, now this, of course, doesn't really make a difference in the Bulldogs game because they got absolutely trolloped, but he still had 23 disposals, but he wasn't getting tagged. But the game against the Swans, when he was getting tagged, of course, by James Jordan, every time, even if Jordan was a step and a half behind him, GWS would just handball him the footy. And I think the conversation needs to take place because Dan Houston having 11, 12 disposals is just batshit. And he's not going to do a lot for your ball movement. Am I worried about the Pies from a top 4 perspective? Well, considering that they've got the Hawks and the Crows to come, that Hawthorn game becomes just so spicy. The beef vindaloo of run home games is extraordinary. If Collingwood win that, they're a lock for top 4. You might even argue that they are now. I'm not ready to say that yet. It's more of a, I'm pretty sure. They lose against the Hawks. That Adelaide game becomes real spicy. They're probably going to beat Melbourne in that last game. So you put that down. So that's 64 points, probably a percentage of around 138, 139, you would think. But then you have to take into account the Hawthorn and the Adelaide games. You win one, you're probably locked into a top 2 spot, to be perfectly honest. You lose both of those, and you're relying on, say, like a Bulldogs not getting you. Because percentage-wise, GWS, Gold Coast, Hawthorn, Freo, I don't think we, as in any of those 4 teams, are going to have the percentage to get them. But ball movement and helping out their defense, because the way that Brisbane were able to expose them by kicking on an angle inside their forward 50, and I would argue even through any of their centre forward positions, expose them. And if I am the Hawks opposition analysis person, whoever that may be, yes, there's going to be no Will Day and that sucks, but that is the first thing that I'm going to be looking at if I am the coach, if I am the coaching staff training this week. No ball inside 50, even if we play 4 talls, even if we play 3. It's going to help the Gunners as a lead-up player. No ball is going to go to the top of the square in case of emergency. Everything else is going to be find as much space as you can and on an angle. And I expect someone like a Jack Ginnivan, who, yes, naughty boy for flipping the bird, is going to get the job done there. So at the end of the day, you look at this and go, yep, Brisbane are the reigning premier, and it's either them or Adelaide are the best team in the comp, and I am more than comfortable putting Collingwood 3rd at this point. I think they, compared to Adelaide and Brisbane, have got the most they need to fix. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm also not saying that Collingwood are completely and royally screwed. So that's where I'm at there. And Brisbane, in all honesty, I know a few are going to point to the Crows, and maybe rightly so, depending on where we're at. Win of the round for me so far. Might be an unpopular opinion, and I'm not saying that as a salty Hawks fan, but the fact that they were able to do this on the road against a top 4 team, I think just gives them the edge. But the perfect result for Brisbane, Collingwood are going to need to do a little bit of soul-searching in order to get better. And can we please get these 2 in another final, let alone grand final this year? That would be awesome. Although, I would love to see the Crows go very far as well. So maybe a prelim matchup. We'll see. But yeah, a pretty enjoyable night of footy. The other 3 games, nothing really worth talking about, to be honest. The Bombers were brave. That's it. Everything else kind of went to plan. So join me, guys. If you watch YouTube Shorts, I'm going to be doing my roundup of all the games, my very quick 20-second synopsis on nearly every game. So enjoy that, if you will. That would be much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Got a video or 2. Haven't decided yet on how I'm going to do it this week coming. So make sure you like the video if you like the video. Subscribe to join the Des Talks Footy family. You have yourselves an absolutely amazing evening, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.